Hello, BookTube. This is Weekly Reads. My original plan for at least this past reading weekend was to read Bismarck, A Life by Jonathan Steinberg. I was reading this for People April, which is a BookTube event in which participants read biographical and autobiographical nonfiction, or I think fiction's also allowed. And one of the prompts for this year's People April was rivals. So I wanted to read biographies of the two antagonists of the Franco-Prussian War, Napoleon III and Otto von Bismarck. A few weeks ago, I bailed on The Shadow Emperor, which is the biography of Napoleon III I have, and I ended up bailing on Bismarck, A Life. My problem with this book is that it's written in too academically, and I found it off-putting, so I bailed. So on Saturday, I started a reread of Queer Nature edited by Michael Walsh. This is an anthology of poetry centered around nature, and I read it a few years ago and really liked it. Unfortunately, I don't know what is going on, but I couldn't get into this anthology. I got about 122 pages in. Although since this is an anthology, I can always come back to it. But I was quite disappointed that I only managed that much. But I was feeling over the weekend an urge to read some science fiction and fantasy, particularly short science fiction and fantasy. So I went with one of my, so I looked at a few anthologies and I settled on The New Weird, edited by Ann and Jeff Vandermeer. And so I was going to read one of my favorite stories from this anthology, and The Lizard of Ooze by Jay Lake. So The Lizard of Ooze is, in part, I just kind of realized, inspired by The Wizard of Oz. But it's about one of a number of cities that are hidden from the rest of the world. And these cities have relations with each other and on a hidden level with the cities of the map, the cities of the real world. And one day in the story, an individual comes from another city who isn't supposed to be in Ooze, and he's going to be killed. However, this individual is revealed to be a clown and some kind of infiltrator who's trying to kill this giant lizard that lives in the deepest part of the city. I remember really liking the story the 2 or 3 times I've previously read this anthology. In the late 2000s, early 2010s, I checked this out from the library quite frequently. And I wanted a copy, so I bought it a few years ago. But this reading, it didn't do anything for me. And that was kind of disappointing. So, over the course of the work week, I read 15 volumes of manga. And I had a blast. I had a blast. So I started on Monday with 3 first volumes. What I like to do is collect first volumes of either series that have been out for a while that I would like to try out, or series that are just starting their English release. And so I had 3, and I read the first 3 volumes. So I also like doing these in 3s. So I started with the 2 that I got in this week. Gokurakugai Volume 1 by Yuto Sano. This is a series about 2 individuals, Tao and Alma. They work as troubleshooters in a fictional city. However, their primary job is hunting down monsters born out of reanimated human corpses called magas. And they're capable of doing this because Alma is himself half maga, and his blood is therefore poisonous to full magas. The first 3 chapters in this volume are, for the most part, standalone. So the first chapter is about a young man named Luca who is looking for his missing friend Yuki. Luca ends up going to Tao and Alma asking for their help, and they go looking for the boy, and they find him being assaulted by a maga, and the 2, Alma and Tao, engage the maga and destroy it. And Luca is reunited with his friend. The second chapter is about them going to a cemetery that's reputedly haunted. And there they meet a young man named Isato, who is praying at his grandfather's grave. And they talk, and Alma helps Isato work through his issues. Meanwhile, a group of maga attack, and they're dispatched. And then in the third chapter of this volume, something is killing young women and disposing of their bodies as a form of decoration. Tao and Alma investigate the shrines where this is taking place, and they encounter a group of manga that they dispatch. However, at the end, the individual committing these murders is confronted by Alma. I really enjoyed the volume. The relationship between Alma and Tao is really rather interesting. I quite like the artwork, and I really like the story. Let me get some action scenes from here. Yep. So that's basically what a manga looks like, or one of its forms. Ooh, that was fun. I next read Snowball Earth Volume 1 by Yuhiro Tsujitsugu. So, Snowball Earth is about a young man named Tetsuo, who is piloting an android or a mecha called Yukio. And they fight to protect Earth from invading waves of kaiju. 10 years after Tetsuo and Yukio began their fight against the kaiju, they go out into space to fight a massive incoming wave. And while they are largely successful, they fail to save Earth. And when Tetsuo returns to Earth after nearly a decade in cryosleep, he discovers that the Earth has been frozen over. And so Tetsuo begins to explore this Snowball Earth and tries to discover if there are any survivors, and if so, how have they been living the last 8 years. Tetsuo discovers that the kaiju have invaded Earth, and that even though he doesn't have Yukio anymore, he is capable of still taking the fight to the kaiju. I really enjoyed this volume. It was quite fun and interesting. So there's some of the kaiju. So they're basically giant space whales. And that's Yukio, or Snowman. Oh yeah. So that was fun too. And I also read Windbreaker Volume 1 by Satoru Nii. So this is a series about a young man named Sakura, who is a delinquent. And he goes to the school called Furin, where a number of delinquents also attend. And he intends to fight these delinquents and rise to the top of the school. However, Furin has been taken over by a young man who wants to transform the school into something more benevolent, as a sort of protection association for the neighborhoods in which the school serves. And this sort of brings up a contradiction in Sakura. There's a part of Sakura that loves fighting, but there's also a part of him that is innately wanting to help people. And so he's trying to sort of work through this. Of the 3 number 1 volumes that I read, this one, while I still liked it, I think I liked it the least of the 3. I think in part because Sakura can get a bit annoying. It's one of those situations, I think, where it's going to take a while for him to really break out of his attitude. And I kind of would like it to be sooner rather than later. So I'm not entirely sure if I will continue with this series or not. I mean, I liked it, but I think I don't know. I might give it another volume or 2 and see. But anyway, so let's move on to what I read on Tuesday. I read the first 3 volumes of Fairy Tale 100 Years Quest by Hiro Mashima and Atsuo Ueda. So, Fairy Tale is one of my favorite manga series. It lasted for 63 volumes and is the second series that Hiro Mashima created. Fairy Tale 100 Years Quest is the sequel series that is storyboarded or written by Hiro Mashima. He's since gone on to do Eden Zero and also currently Dead Rock. And so the artwork is done by Ueda. So the idea of Fairy Tale 100 Years Quest is that the main characters of Fairy Tale, Natsu, Lucy, Urza, Gray, Wendy, and Happy and Carla, are going on a quest that has existed for 100 years. That no wizard has been able to accomplish this quest, to complete it, in 100 years. And so they travel to a distant continent and learn that the quest involves sealing the 5 dragon gods of Guiltina. There are 5 powerful dragons who are reputed to be as strong, if not stronger, than Acnologia, the dragon that served as one of the 2 main antagonists of Fairy Tale. So while Natsu and the gang are traveling to the dragon that has the most, where its location is, Markphobia, the other, back in Ishgar, a new member has joined Fairy Tale. Her name is Tuka, and she immediately elicits the suspicion of Gajil and the rivalry of Juvia. Tuka is revealed to be claiming to be the White Mage, so she's infiltrated Fairy Tale for nefarious purposes. Meanwhile, back with Natsu and them, they sort of go to Ermina, where Markphobia is, and promise to help him get his powers back, because his powers have been stolen. While that's going on, they are attacked by a guild of wizards from Guiltina called Diablos, who are composed of 5th generation dragon slayers who gain their powers by eating the flesh of dragons. So I'm not too fond of this first volume. I started to like the second and third volume a bit more. I think in part because I really do not like Tuka. And I guess maybe that's the point, in that is presented more as an intrusion than a new member would be. But she just, I don't know, I don't like her. And I think other issues I have is that I wish Juvia had been part of the main cast, that she had gone to take on the quest alongside the main team. In part because at the end of Fairy Tale, the implication was that Gray and Juvia were sort of inching towards becoming a thing. Now, obviously, Juvia is in love with Gray, and she has been since they first met. Gray, it's taken a lot longer for him to figure out what his feelings are for her. But at the end of Fairy Tale, the strong indication was that they were going to become a thing. And that's not happened yet. Now, it might later on, because there's some indications with the third volume that maybe Juvia will be sticking around more permanently. But she really should have been here from the beginning, because I would like at least one of the teased romances to actually have some development in a more positive direction, since Urza and Jalal are going to be dancing around each other forever, and quite frankly, Natsu and Lucy really need to, yeah. So anyway, but, I mean, so the first volume, and then the fairy tale parts, but once I got to this second and third volume, I really started to get into it, and really start to to enjoy it. So let's see here if we can find some. Another issue I had is that I'm kind of tired of dragons. I think they're a bit overdone by this point. That I think maybe something else could have been used. But I do love Ueda's artwork. It is quite good and kind of captures the main fairy tale story. Let's see here. And there's one of the Diablos mages fighting Servant of Mercophobia. And then there's Mercophobia in human form. Okay. I'll work on those later. Let me go to here. Is anything? Although I did like the second phase of the fight with Diablos. Oh yeah, that's actually quite nice right here. What's that? Yeah. There. Okay, let's see here. And there's Mercophobia in dragon form. And of course, we're also introduced in the third volume to a adoptive brother of Natsu's, Ignia. So there's Ignia in dragon form. And then let's get him in human form. And then so that was Fairy Tale 100 Years Ago. So from Wednesday, I've been reading 9 volumes of Black Clover by Yuki Tabata. Black Clover is a series about 2 young men. Asta and Yuno. They both aspire to become Wizard King, the commander of the magical military forces of the Clover Kingdom. Yuno is a prodigy. He's very strong in magic. Asta, on the other hand, was born without magic, one of the very few people in this world who cannot use magic. However, this lack of magic allows him to possess a mysterious grimoire that allows him to draw an anti-magic sword from it. And this allows him to become a magic knight and join the Black Bulls, a order of magic knights that are eccentric and the worst squad. Not necessarily because they're bad or evil, but because they're relatively wild and crazy and destructive and are generally outcasts. So in these 9 volumes I read, volumes 3 through 11, a number of arcs are either finished or happen. So volume 3 continues a dungeon exploration arc in which 3 members of the Black Bulls, Asta, Luck, and Noel, are competing with members of the Golden Dawn, the highest ranked of the orders of magic knights, which include Yuno, Mimosa, and Klaus. However, they're not the only ones interested in this dungeon. A squad from the Diamond Kingdom are also have invaded the dungeon. And so there's a conflict between the Clover Magic Knights and the Diamond Magic Knights. And this results in a long battle between Asta and Yuno and Mars, one of the elite Diamond Magic Knights. And the fight is really good. And the arc results in both Yuno and Asta getting a power-up. And it's really well done. So from there, they end up going to report to the Wizard King in the capital, and they're invited to attend an awards ceremony where standout magic knights are being awarded and gently criticized. And at this point, there's an invasion from a terrorist organization called the Midnight Eye, or Eye of the Midnight Sun. And the fight is amazing. Asta leaps into action, as he does, alongside a young, aggressive magic knight from another order. And I really like that arc. It is amazing. However, the arc results in Asta needing to take a vacation, which he doesn't do. Excuse me. He gets involved in another adventure with several other members of his order when 2 agents of the Eye of the Midnight Sun are kidnapping children to siphon off their magic. And this results in a massive brawl that gradually draws in more and more participants. It starts with Asta and some of his fellow magic knights, alongside a retired magic knight who has since become a nun, fighting the 2 agents who are trying to siphon these kids' magic. And that draws in their superior, one of a higher ranking member of the Eye of the Midnight Sun, and then the leader of the Midnight Suns arrives, and then Captain Yami of the Black Bulls arrives, and then the higher-ups of or an elite squadron of the Midnight Suns show up, and then several members of other Holy Knight captains show up, and it turns into a massive fight in this cave. Then it's a miracle. Well, no, actually, I think they do destroy the cave. Fortunately, all the kids are saved, but and this leads to Asta being a bit injured and being taken to the capital, where it's realized that he can use his sword to break enchantments. And this leads to them gaining some information about the Eye of the Midnight Sun, and eventually the Black Bulls are sent to an underwater temple to gain a magic stone that the Midnight Eye are after. And one of the elites of the Eye of the Midnight Sun arrive, and massive fight, and it is amazing. Particularly, what I really love in Asta's character is how he makes people better. Just his grit and determination and his sort of belief in his friends drives his teammates to strive to be better, to become better, to push past their limits. And it is just so amazing. That fight with Veto is amazing. And then, however, Asta is grievously injured in this fight. And so the next arc, and then the Diamond invades a city, and the Golden Dawn largely take care of it, although Asta, several members of the Black Bulls are there as well to kind of help mop up. And then after this, Asta discovers that he's injured grievously and that he may never be able to wield his swords again. So some members of the Black Bulls go to the Forest of the Witches to try to find a cure. However, the forest is ruled by the Witch Queen, who's not terribly pleasant, and her forest is invaded by the Diamond Kingdom and the Eye of the Midnight Sun. And so Asta is tasked to, alongside his friends, tasked to defend the forest and to beat back the invasions. And it is amazing. I love these 9 volumes. It was amazing. I have been feeling down a bit the later part of this week, and these 9 volumes of Black Clover just made my day. I was just in awe of the story. It was wonderful. So let me show you some images that I really enjoyed. Here's Asta. And one of my favorite, let me see here. And then I'm going to spoil this, but it is such an amazing image. But I mean, the thing I love about this fight with against Veto, one of the members of the Eye of the Midnight Sun, is that Asta and two other members of the Black Bulls, Vanessa and Finral, team up and work so wonderfully well together. And that's just the wonderful, just that intangible that Asta has, where he can get his teammates to work together and push past their limits. And it's just so amazing. And they really do make a great team. And that with Asta joining, they go from being the worst, that they have like demerits, to uh, just improve rapidly. Just that is. And then there's here. I want to show you a quick. Oh, I love this cover. There. And I want to show some of Yuno's fight, which is amazing. And there's Yami. And I also really love Yuno's character because while sometimes like the rival can sometimes be a bit of a jerk, Yuno is actually really super supportive, and it's a wonderful relationship. Like this. Yes. And there's that. And I really love there's this um like this here. I love that. And also the image where the other members of the Black Bulls are going out to try to cure Asta. It is just amazing. I love that. I'm loving Black Clover. I am really, really loving this series so much. Anyway, so what will I be reading this coming reading week? So I think over the course of the weekend, I'm going to try to read House of the Sleeping Beauties by Yasunari Kawabata. and Acts of Worship by Yukio Mishima. I've had both of these for a very long time. I have read Acts of Worship. It's been well over 20 years. So I kind of want to have another go at this. And I've had this book for almost 20 years, and I've never gotten around to it. So really need to get to both of these. And over the course of the work week, I am going to start Fullmetal Alchemist by Hiromu Arakawa. And I'm planning on reading the series from beginning to end. So 15 volumes this work week, and then I'll finish the series next weekend. So that's the plan. Now, one thing I do want to do is I have a number of manga incoming from Book People and Pals. And I think I'm not going to buy any more manga until these volumes come in. And then these will largely get me caught up with several of the series that I'm following, as well as Black Clover, and also finish off Naruto. And so with that, I'm going to, I think, step back a bit and take stock of my manga collection and figure out what series I want to start collecting, because I do have a number of number ones and of first volumes and some series that I've collected a few volumes from. And I want to think if I want to continue collecting them or start collecting them, as well as maybe look for new series and get a handle on how I want to organize my manga collection and what to do about series that I don't want to collect. But that's probably a video several weeks away from now. I also want to really think a bit about this pesky desire I've had for the last few months to add more poetry, 20th century American drama, contemporary translated fiction, and American fiction that could be great American novels. I've wanted to make a video about the great American novel for about over a month now, and it's not working. So I might give it a few more goes and see how that works, or try to figure out a different way to talk about it. But anyway, I need to go ahead and sign off for now. So until I see you next week, BookTube, thank you, have a great afternoon, and stay safe.